you, Allie, kind of fill us in on where you came from, what your start was with dog training, and like why you like it.
Yeah, so I got my start in dog training in high school, actually. There was a service dog program, and I was very interested because I thought it was super cool to get to take a dog everywhere with you. I mean, what 14-year-old isn't intrigued by that? And I went to the classes, and there was a Labradoodle that was being taken away from a student for not taking care of the dog and not getting good grades. So we had to write a letter on why we were the good fit for Ella. That was the dog's name. And so I wrote a letter, and I somehow ended up getting her. And I had her for about 9 months, I want to say. Somewhere around that time frame. Had her for 9 months. She had a lot of reactivity issues, not the greatest dog. She came from the Maricopa County shelter. She was one of Sheriff Joe Arpaio's like rescue missions or something like that. There's three of them: Porter, Willow, and Ella. And I had Ella, obviously. Worked with her. She ended up going to a woman, and I had kind of told the service dog lady, like, hey, this dog is pretty reactive, and I just don't think she's going to do well. And I went to her graduation, cried my eyes out, and a few years later, she had been rehomed due to her reactivity. The lady had
Dang
said she
it.
went to the farm. I don't know what that means, but
Oh shoot.
so
Wait, you don't
yeah.
you don't know what that means? The farm? I'm pretty
Well,
sure most people know what that means.
yes. So she went to the farm. And then after that, I still want to do service dogs, but I want to do something more legitimate and actually like learn how to train a dog like the right way. So I got involved with a organization called Power Paws Assistance Dogs, and I was actually supposed to go to summer school that day because I had not the greatest math teacher in the freshman year of high school. Long story. Anyways, so I went to summer school, and it turns out that I did not have to go to summer school. And my dad comes to pick me up, and he's like, let's go see what Power Paws is all about. We drive down there, and they're like, well, actually, we have a dog coming from Florida from Southeastern Guide Dogs that is going to need a puppy raiser if you're interested. And I'm like, sure. So we drive home, prep the house, buy a crate for him, everything like that. And 3 hours later, I drove home with a 4-month-old lab puppy. And coolest dog ever. I feel like you always get like your one dog, and he was my one dog that just taught me a lot. I did a lot of purely positive only training. That was kind of the style. A lot of clicker training. I learned a lot of like the methodology of that. And that philosophy, and it was great. I had him for about a year and a half, probably the biggest heartbreak ever. He left. He went to a very nice woman down in Tucson that has
So
a
what
disability.
why was it hard?
It was hard because, I mean, you have these dogs from 16 weeks and potentially younger. Some you get at 8 weeks old. But I had this dog from the time that he was 16 weeks old. He goes to school with me. He went to church with me. Like, he was my whole world. He went everywhere with me all the time.
Mm,
So to have that for over a year and a half, and then one day you just turn around and give the dog up is extremely
mm,
hard.
I gotcha.
So for the people that are watching, imagine getting your dog as a puppy. You have them until they're a year and a half, and then you got to get rid of them.
Yeah, that
And
sucks.
I was young, so I didn't put up like that blocker, I feel like. Uh, and I thought, oh, I won't get attached. And you do.
God
You
dang it.
do.
Got attached.
And then 6 months later, I got to go to his graduation, which was heartbreaking again because you get to see him, but it's kind of like, I don't know when I'm going to see you again. And luckily, I stayed in contact with the woman that has him, and I've seen him a handful of times, and I get updates here and there, and it made it all worth it. But definitely, as a 14-year-old, it's hard, but
Gotcha.
it's really where I got my start into dog training, and really what made me want to continue on with it. So
That's awesome. Then from there, so you got your passion in service dogs, and
mm-hmm.
then where did that take you, and how did you come to like the training philosophy that you are today?
Yeah, so from there, I got a third dog, but the organization kind of went downhill. And then I was introduced to a bigger training facility here in Arizona, and I got the awesome opportunity to go be an intern there. I did a internship for about 9 months,
Hmm.
and they're more of a balanced training approach. So they'd use prong collars, e-collars. So that was different for me coming from purely positive. And I really liked some of the concepts of it. And so I kind of blended both of what I had kind of learned from both sides of it. So I definitely like to use, the marker training and the food and everything like that. But it is nice to have tools. And for dog training, it's not one size fits all. You have so many different dogs, have so many different issues, and they learn different ways, kind of like how people are. But I did an internship there for 9 months. It was a great opportunity. It got my feet wet working with people and working with
Mm.
clients because with the service dog industry, I just work with the dog and not really any interaction with the client side of it. So, and as a young kid, I was more on the shy, quieter side, and I'm still quiet to an extent now, but was extremely quiet kid. So it was very nerve wracking for me to have to talk with people, and you're dealing with people that are a lot older than you. So that's intimidating as well, of telling them what they need to be doing with their dog. But I worked there, let's see, from my junior year of high school all the way up until senior year. From there, I was offered a senior trainer position, and so I kind of climbed the ladder, so to speak.
Hmm.
I started literally from the bottom, an unpaid intern, just wanting to learn more about dogs, to end up being the kennel manager and working with a ton of people, teaching group classes, private lessons. I've worked with thousands of dogs, and it was a great experience. Really got my hands on a ton of different breeds. Obviously, it comes with negative and positives. I was there for 7 years, and then it was time
Whoa, dang.
for me to move
That's,
on.
yeah.
And now here I am. I'm doing my own thing. Started up in April, and it's had some challenges, but it's been really fun. I've met some cool people, and yeah.
Awesome. That's cool. For the audience, obviously I know most of this story. But I'm just gonna play like I don't, just for the interview's sake, because it makes for a better interview than it's like, uh-huh, yeah, I know. You got
Oh, he knows it all.
it. Like, how did you come to find Ring and why do you like it?
So for French Ring, I actually found it at the job that I was interning at. They trained Ring there, and I would go to their training nights. And from there, I was super interested. And I talked to the owner and was like, "Hey, like I want to do this." And he's like, "Oh, you definitely should." And it's kind of how I got into ring sport. It was just super fascinating to watch, very different and more intense than the service dogs. And I like to kind of experiment and do different things. And, it's good to stick with one thing, but it just kind of interested me more. And this was something more for myself, where the service dogs you don't get to keep. It's not your dog.
Right.
So training a dog for something that I enjoy was awesome. And I really love the Malinois. Obviously, not only Malinois compete in the sport, but it's mainly Malinois
Primarily,
that
yeah.
are. And I loved it. I love the intensity of it. I love, the relationship you have with the dog, and it's very difficult. And you always, and I mean, this is anything in life, but there's always something you have to work on. There's always something your dog's not great at. There's always some type of hole in your training that you need to go
That
back and
you.
fix. So, yeah, that's why I got started in French Ring, and I've been doing it again roughly about 7 years. I have my 6-year-old Malinois Gambino, who's retired. He's got very bad hips and a lot of health issues that have kind of come up within the last few months. And then I got a puppy back in, I think, January, who is hopefully going to be his replacement. We'll see. He's got his own health challenges right now, but I'm optimistic.
So tell me a little bit about how you started your business and like where you're at now in the process of your business and where you see yourself. And we can kind of chop those up into different questions because I know it's a lot, but like how did you start your business?
Yeah, so I started my business. I first of all, with training dogs, you need to have a location to do that, and that was extremely difficult. I was looking for the right house for probably a little over a year, and it was super discouraging just with the market, and it just felt like nothing was what I needed it to be. And, anyways, long story short, I found the perfect place to have dogs where you're kind of out of the city, but you're close enough, and having the space to take on, a certain amount of dogs. For me, I'm trying to keep everything very small. I want to have more personal relationships, not only with my clients, but also with the dogs.
Mm.
Working at a facility is great to, get your feet wet and work with a ton of dogs, but I feel like you don't get to give enough one-on-one attention. I mean, at least not as much as I would like.
Right.
So I'm able to kind of have fewer amount of dogs, which is super nice. But yeah, I got my place back in November, and I wasn't really planning on doing my own thing probably for a few more years, to be honest. But some unforeseen circumstances had kind of came up, and it got jump started way quicker than I thought would happen. And yeah, so in April, I started my social media. I started just reaching out and networking and everything like that. My dad is a veterinarian, so that helps too
That's
with
awesome.
having that clientele coming through. And yeah, so I had some people reach out, working on a lot of boarding dogs. I'm trying to get some training dogs in. It's definitely slower right now. Just I feel like it's a hard time. But I've had a lot of boarding dogs, and now at the next few weeks, I'm having about 3 dogs coming in for training, which is awesome. I'm super excited.
How many dogs do you usually take at a time for just the training
Yeah,
part?
so for training, I only take 3 dogs at a time, just
Okay.
so you can put the time into the dogs. Sorry, I thought that was
Yeah.
baby's dad. Just so I can put the time into the dogs, and really get to know them and have enough time during the day and everything, because it is just me. So
So then you're
giving,
booked out for July then.
yes, for July, I'm booked out.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Congrats. That's sweet.
Yep. And a lot of them were referrals from friends of mine, as well as from my dad's vet clinic. So
Wow.
it's been
So
exciting.
you started your business what month?
April,
Oh my gosh. April, April to May, June, June. So there's that 3 months that you're
three
open? Three or
months,
four?
3 months.
Okay.
Yeah,
Wow. That's amazing.
it'll be 4 months, I guess. And well, I guess it'll be 4 months this month. But yeah,
That's so cool. So what do you think was like I mean, you talked about your dad giving you referrals and stuff. Was there anything else that you saw that was helpful to get more referrals or anybody that helped out in building your business?
yeah. So I've had some very awesome, influential people that had followed me starting my own business, that have been very supportive. And I'm trying to get more involved with some of the rescues and stuff in the area, just to kind of show that I'm here and I exist. I think that's the hardest thing, is there's so many dog trainers now in Arizona, and especially kind of within my area. So getting your name out there, and separating yourself on why you're different and why you're unique, and why people should go with you. um, but yeah, that's the big thing. And I took on a foster dog. Um,
That's the dog you hear in the background, by the way.
yes, that is. I took on a foster dog about 6 days ago. Not only just to kind of show my training skills that I have, but also I've always been very interested. I've been following the rescue community for a while now. And just with how full the shelters are and everything, it just kind of fell into my lap. And I was like, well, how could I pass up this opportunity? And I'm super excited. I definitely like to have projects. Like, he's my little project dog. And then I have a service dog that I'm training as well. That's hopefully going to be placed in December. So I definitely like to have little things to kind of work on. And with my business kind of just getting up and started, where I'm not extremely, extremely busy, I have the time.
Mm.
And it just makes sense to put the time into something else and do something a little bit different. One of our good friends, actually, she's a psychologist. She's kind of the same boat. She's starting her own business, and she's always saying, I don't know why things are happening the way they are, but
Mm.
it's what I need to be doing. And I feel like working and having a rescue dog right now is something that I need to be doing, for whatever reason that is. Um, so I'm excited to see where it goes. I'm excited to see what family Clancy ends up going to. I think that's going to be super exciting whenever that happens.
That's awesome. Yeah, we always need more people to foster dogs. It's pretty sad to see. Like there's hundreds of dogs on those sites that
There
just
is.
either will never get a home
Yeah. Well,
or
and our shelters are extremely full, and it's frustrating for the shelters, and it's really just frustrating for everybody, because, dogs are being overlooked for little things, but they're just at max capacity, and they can't give the dogs the time that they need, unfortunately. That's just kind of how it works. So,
yeah.
yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, hopefully it'll be good to get Clancy trained and I mean he's not a bad dog, but he'll
No.
be even
No.
better dog when he
Yes,
leaves,
he'll be a
hopefully,
better
right?
dog,
That's good.
I think.
Right? I was watching her work on the sit with him today, and it was very funny because as a street dog, he's probably super independent and
Very.
like He's
Yes.
not very motivated to do
And you
much.
can, when you're outside, he's looking for a hole in the fence. He's
Exactly.
ready to go. He wants to run away. So we're working on
But
it.
there's progress. She ended up getting him to sit semi consistently today.
Yes.
And sometimes people like question the value of dog training because I've seen we've done our research and just like some people are charging 5K, some people are charging less or more, just depends on who you kind of go with. And I can definitely attest to just watching and filming and being around all the dog training that you do, that it is a lot of work. Like it's not where it's like you're kind of getting scammed. Like no, it's a lot of work.
Yeah, and I think it is a lot of work. I don't think maybe people realize it, maybe people don't. It is a lot of work. I also think too it's a commitment on their end. Like
Mm,
yes, your dog is trained when they leave their trainer, but at the end of the day, if you're not going home and spending time with the dog and putting in the effort as well, you're not going to see those results. So I definitely can see the hesitation that people have to spend that much money and then being like, am I going to be able to
mm,
uphold this training? Am I going to be able to follow through with this? So it's definitely a financial commitment, which I totally understand. For me, and maybe it's because I'm a trainer, but having my dogs obedient and a relatively peaceful life is super, super important to me. And I think some people are, they're used to the habits that their dogs have and it doesn't really bother them. But for me, of being able to have worked with a lot of dogs with bad habits, there are just some things that I just would drive me up a wall.
oh, I get it.
So I think it just depends on the person. And, you have some people that are like dog people that they want to work with their dogs and do things. And then you have people that are more so just wanting to have a dog that kind of hangs out. And that can be hard when you don't get that dog that you were, originally seeking. If you're thinking
Right.
you're getting a nice, simple, easy dog and you get a dog that has reactivity issues or aggression or whatever, it's kind of like, holy cow, like I didn't probably realize what I was signing yourself up for type of thing.
Yeah,
Cause it does happen.
that makes sense. Yeah, that's. I think a lot of people like overlook to the just massive amount of time saving because honestly, there's a lot like all this stuff can be learned online. Like everything can be learned online nowadays.
Yes, if you are in dire need and like your dog is just out of control and you need immediate help, YouTube is a great resource.
Sure.
There's tons of videos. You can definitely work with your dog yourself. Like it's not a requirement to have a trainer. Is it nice and helpful for sure? But you can definitely make do without one. You know what I'm
That's
saying?
why it's a service though, right? Because it's like
Yes.
massively time saving.
Hmm.
Because to be a master in anything, you have to spend 10,000 hours. And you obviously, over the course of your 10 years of training, have surpassed the 10,000 hours. You're
A
probably,
lot.
yeah, you're probably above that. Um, but yeah, like freaking hours and hours and hours go into those dogs. And to have a dog that just like you drop it off for 2 weeks at your place and then come back and you do a couple lessons, for like the transfer or whatever.
Yeah.
But then you have a dog that, you don't have to get after all the time and you have that like peace of mind.
Yeah,
It's
because for
kind of
the
cool.
most part, when they leave the training that they're coming from, they're gonna know. Typically, they're gonna know all the basics. Now, dogs are still gonna test you
Sure.
and go home and kind of fall back in those old habits. So definitely being consistent is a huge thing. The dog's definitely gonna, test and everything, but they're gonna know and understand the basics. So that's the difficult thing I find is for me, it's easy to get the dog trained and knowing what they're supposed to do and then training the owner. It's
Mm,
hard when you're trying to teach the owner and the dog at the same time
gotcha.
because there's a lot of things with timing to reward the dog, correct the dog, all of those things. Anyways, and it can be a lot
Yeah.
and it's fine, it's doable, you know what I mean? But it is easier to do.
So then I know that you offer private lessons and the board and train programs. So what would be what who do you think would be the best fit for like the private lessons versus the board and train?
Mhm.
Or like would you recommend people first go with the board and train and then private lessons or what do you think?
So I guess it depends on the dog and kind of what issues you're having. Private lessons are nice. Like if you're super hands-on with your dog and you really want to work
Mm,
and train them yourself, but you kind of just want a little bit of coaching on how to go about things like that, I think private lessons are a great option. And if you're gonna go home and work with your dog actively and be super, engaged with that, I think it's great. If you're someone who are like, you know what, I just don't see myself working with my dog and being able to teach him all that stuff, or you're wanting a dog that needs confidence building. A lot of times I feel like dogs that have fear issues or anything along those lines, it's kind of nice to get them out of their environment, and that's where the board and train is super nice. You kind of take them out of where they're comfortable bring them to a new environment, teach them these skills, work on the confidence, work on the exposure. And then once they're at that point, teaching the owner all those things on how to transition the dog back home.
Mm.
And then obviously with most board and trains, I feel like whoever you go with is going to offer some type of follow-up lesson or class or whatever.
Yeah.
And those I can't stress enough because I feel like a lot of people just assume, okay, my dog's trained, we're good.
Yeah.
No, going to those classes, having those lessons is crucial. So you know kind of how to work your dog and how to handle them. Because if I just give you a trained dog, but you don't know what to do with them, that
Right.
training's out the window.
Sure.
You don't know how to. It's like giving you a super nice souped up car and not teaching you how
How
to drive it. You
drive
know,
manual.
yeah. If you don't know how to drive manual, you got to learn. It's kind of the same thing with dog training. And I don't think a lot of people realize that. They just think, okay, the dog's trained, like, let's go.
Right.
No, we got to get you guys on the same page and cruising together.
That makes sense. Yeah, I like it. So how does like the typical day in the life, I guess you would say, of a dog that goes through the training program? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, so day in the life, I mean, it depends on where they're at in the program, but
Sure.
I like to get my dogs up early and get them out pottied. If they're food motivated, even if they're not, I try to use their meals for training, especially in the beginning, just to kind of teach them, sit down, place, all the basics, build that relationship too. If
Yeah.
you don't have a good relationship with a dog, you can kind of throw everything else out the window, I feel like. So really building the relationship, getting the dog to trust you is huge. Kind of once you're at that point, then I start to work on all the basics. I really like to start with loose leash walking skills. But from there, getting all the general obedience in the house and outside. Because here's my thing is if the dog can't do it in the house or outside, they can't do it out in
Anywhere else.
public or
Right.
anywhere distracting. So really getting the obedience and engagement dialed in a more neutral, calm environment, and then starting to take the dogs out into public and more distracting, high level, intensity areas, I would say.
Just incrementally, like increasing the
Yes.
level of
Yes.
stress or distraction or whatever.
And teaching the dogs the place bed. I like to bring them in the house. I start with no distractions. I kind of build it up to where my dogs are kind of cruising around the house and the dog's just kind of laying there ignoring that, because that's very good impulse control when you're going to have people, friends, whatever over. You want to make sure your dog can hang out and chill in a place bed throughout all that stuff.
Right.
And really for the dogs staying with me training, it's just kind of constant. Like they're basically treated like one of my own dogs for the 2 to 3 weeks, depending on what program you do, that they're with me. The way that my dogs live is going to be the way that that dog lives. So they're getting kind of fully immersed in that, and they're learning how to be obedient, not only in the house, but also out and about, taking on walks, things like that.
Yeah. Gotcha. So what do you think then is like the most unique, like a few things about your business that you don't, maybe other trainers do it, but like you feel, pride in doing that with your training programs?
That's a hard question.
Yeah, I know.
Maybe not, because I think maybe other trainers do this as well, but I feel like the time that your dog spends with me, like I can't tell you how many frequent flyer dogs that I have that just absolutely love coming here, because like I said, they're literally part of the family.
Yeah.
For the people that are on my social media, a lot of the times you guys see this little dog, little Frenchie Tater.
Shout out to Tater and Sue.
Tater and Sue. Tater comes, he's ready to go. He knows the minute that her tires hit the drive, like we're going to Allie's house. And he has a great time. He gets to interact and play with my dogs. He's here in the house with us. He's on the place bed. Like he's very highly involved in our lives.
Yeah.
And like I said, the dogs here they're pretty much like family. Sometimes too, my dad is very involved with helping with things around the property and stuff and the grass and all that. So he's here quite a bit. And one day I was sitting in Tater was on the ground hanging out on his bed, and he's like, I feel like that dog's always here. I'm like, yeah, he's like one of my own dogs. So I think that's the thing is I want to be able to provide, and it's not only just about building that training relationship and getting your dog in through training.
Yeah.
For me, it's really about having a safe space for your dog to come back to, a safe space where they can come back, they're comfortable, where you're out traveling, having a good time, that you have peace of mind knowing your dog is having the time of their life and there's nothing wrong going on. So I think that's the big thing. And I really like to build more personal relationships with my client. Obviously, there are some people where you're not going to, hit it off right away, but I really like to know like about you, what you do for work, and getting to know you on a more personal level. I think it just makes things a little bit easier. And, I met some really awesome people through the dog training industry. So I want to continue doing that with my own business.
From what you were saying, I picked up that it sounds like some of the other like things that are unique about your business is that you like superly, that's a new word, superly, put it in the dictionary. You value the like transparency and trust with the owner and like the relationship with owner and dog and you.
Yes.
Like going through training and then they obviously come to your home, right?
Hmm.
And they like see everything and like that's a huge amount of trust for whereas
Yeah.
some other places or companies that maybe do dog watching or stuff like that, like it's little less, trusting. And plus, the dog already still maintains the training. It's not, if you want to touch on that, that'd be
Yeah, no, I think because the dog knows me personally, the
yeah,
best. And kind of like you said, like you are coming into my home, like this is where I live. This is, what life is going to be like. So you're really seeing a lot of what my life looks like and kind of getting more personal, I'd say, because of that.
yeah,
And I feel like it's a more casual feel. And, it that's the way I like it instead of it being so rigorous and like this is what we're
mm,
doing. Like I like everything to just be more of like an open conversation type of thing. Obviously, like there is a way I train and the way that I'm gonna do things. And again, one size does not fit all. So not every single trainer, like I
sure,
might not be the best fit for people, and that is totally fine. And that's the thing too, is I'm very transparent about that stuff with people because I do want to be very meticulous on who I'm working with. And again, there is a goal that I'm trying to obtain of having that, good personal relationship. So that's the other thing as well, is just being very open and transparent about stuff, but obviously doing that in a very nice way.
mm,
Again, not everybody's gonna be friends with everybody.
right.
There might be other trainers that you're gonna get along better with, other companies, facilities, whatever, and that's totally fine. But yeah, being very open about that.
No, I like that, and especially yeah, like you said, it's not one size fits all. It's and you're very more like quality over quantity, I would say, and so it sounds like a super good fit. I appreciate your time coming on here and
Thank you.
let me ask you some questions and interview you. I hope to have you back for a longer podcast. Obviously, like you have some clients coming pretty soon, but yeah,
Yeah.
cool
Thank you
stuff.
for having me.
No worries.
Signing out.
Signing out.